Hi, I'm Jason Cotta, the fishing manager for the Orvis retail store located in Bellevue, Washington. It's early November. We have a lot of chum salmon showing up in our rivers, which can be a blast to catch on a fly rod. Cool thing about the chums is that fly selection, you don't need a bunch of flies to catch them. A few simple patterns in a couple different colors is really all you need. Probably the best pattern for the chums is going to be what's called a chum turd in chartreuse, probably the most popular color. And today we're going to show you how to tie that particular pattern. So the materials you need to tie the chum turd, they're pretty basic. Starting off, just a basic size 6. This happens to be a bonefish hook. You can really use whatever you have available. You just want something that has a little bit heavier shank because you are catching fish in that 10 to 15 pound range, and you don't want a light wire hook that's going to bend out. So just something nice and beefy. Next material you'll need is bead chain eyes. We're going to use some chartreuse flashabou, chartreuse marabou, and lastly, chartreuse ice dub chenille. Roll. Alright, so to start this fly off, I'm just going to start my tying thread just behind the eye of that hook, work my way back, and that gives me a nice thread base for those materials to stick onto. The first thing I'm going to tie on is my bead chain eyes. So I'm going to advance my tying thread to just right about where the barb's at. And I've pre-cut this bead chain into just sections of 2. So you just want 2 of those guys to tie in. So just about like that right there. Take this pre-cut bead chain, just set it right on top of the hook. Tie that down. Now to tie this down, what you want to do is just do X wraps. So you just alternate going back and forth over that bead chain, and a little trick I like to use is after you've made your X wraps, go ahead and make a few wraps around the base of those X wraps that you made, just like you would do if you were tying a parachute. And what that does is that compresses those wraps and really helps hold that bead chain on tight, so that guy's not going anywhere. Once you got those all tied in, just bring your tying thread to the back of the hook. Take some chartreuse flashabou. I'm just going to take about 2 or 3 strands of this. Get that guy off there. And I'm just going to take this, tie it in right on top of the hook. And now with all of this excess going forward, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold that back and tie that down. So I have all those strands going towards the back of the hook. Next thing I want to do is tie in my tail. So I'm going to take some chartreuse marabou here. I have a feather already selected. Just pinch off a clump of that. Go ahead, tie that in right on top of the hook shank there. A few wraps, make sure that's in nice and tight. Trim all of your excess. Now don't worry about how much you have hanging off the back here, because we're going to go ahead and trim that tail. And we want that tail about the length of the hook shank. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball that, get all those flashabou fibers and all that marabou. Just make one cut, trim that tail. Now the last step will be to tie in and wrap my chenille. So I'm going to take some chartreuse ice dub chenille, just strip those fibers off the core, just expose that core a little bit, get that tied in. Alright, once I have that tied in, go ahead and advance your tying thread to just behind the eye. Now all you're going to do is take that chenille, wrap it forward, make a few X wraps over those bead chain eyes. Wrap that chenille forward. Once I get to just behind the eye, just pull that chenille towards me. Slide the bobbin over a couple of times, get that tied down. All that excess. Just go ahead and trim that nice and close. Make a few more wraps here just to make sure it's tied on nice and tight. And then I'll take my whip finish. Do a quick whip finish on that guy. You can add a little head cement on there if you'd like to. trim your tie-in thread, and there you have it. Simple chum turd. So as you can see, tying up the chum turd is pretty simple. So come on down to the shop. We have all the materials you need. We can get you hooked up with those and answer any questions you might have. If you don't tie, we also have some locally tied chum turds at the store for you to buy as well. So come on, pick a few up, go out and catch a few fish.